The institutions are calling, and Pyth is the only one with the answer. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become B2B SaaS.
Oof, that intro it's hard. GM, Mark, how we doing, sir?
GM, we're doing great. That was great. Great work. My biggest fear ever might become true. So I'm kind of having an existential crisis. Imagine we have to now say we're doing B2B SaaS. Would be a big fall from our DeFi days.
We are not DeFi degens, smooth brains anymore. We're just regular Joes selling B2B SaaS. Great freaking Friday to have a little town hall, I think, on live on YouTube, live on X, seeing a bunch of Pythians just joining in and dropping some comments. So this should be a really good one, I think, following up on this phase 2 proposal from Duro Labs. We've got Mark, Genia is coming in very shortly as well to talk about this. So this should be very exciting and a good educational piece and time together. It's Pyth Day. First of all, whoever's watching this, Pythians, repost, please. Give it a little, the little circle thing. Give it a click. The more people see, the more we can let people know about Pyth. And if you have questions, drop them in the chats. I had a couple questions dropping in my tweet earlier today that I've saved for later. But if you do, please, this is the time. This is the time. Lucky to have Mark. Genia's running a bit late, just degenning and BDing for Duro Lab out in there. But Mark, how are we doing today?
We're doing great. Kind of feels like a beyond the price again, though it's not a beyond the price. But no, I'm getting into the streamer life, how do you call this? Yeah, the streamer life. I don't know if I'm good at all. I don't know if I'll make Elon bucks or Twitch bucks, but it's pretty fun.
We're twitching. And we got Genia. Genia, sir.
Gentlemen, how's it going? Big day today. Non-farm payroll on chain. Let's go.
Ain't much, but it's honest work.
Yeah, listen, it counts, right? Like this is what our third official economic data release in the last 9 days. So pretty exciting, and obviously we got much more coming.
Let me see if I can do some quick screen sharing without sharing everything on my entire screen. We can share the entire screen. Nothing to be hidden here. It's fully transparent. Yes, you're right, Genia. So yeah, whoever's watching, just retweet that thing. And then today, a bunch of acronyms I don't know about. NFP, PPI, CPI, whatever. It's on chain now. So wait, did I put it on the stream or not even? No. That's ridiculous. But yes, a bunch more. So what? Employment, non-farm payrolls, unemployment, wage growth, CPI, PPI, PCE, GDP index, current account balance, PMI. Well, it's all on chain now. So you're welcome. But yeah, another great day to be a Pyth user and a bunch of new shit on chain.
I was gonna say also first day post NFL. When are we putting NFL scores on chain next?
Well,
We're working on the
I would,
deal.
I would, I would, I would trust my parlays a lot better if Pyth was in charge of bringing that on chain. But I'm one for one. I mean, I'm just throwing this out there. But no, great to have you guys on. First, I mean, to kickstart, people know, or at least who watch this, know I'm the dumb, retarded, smooth brain from Pyth that just do live streams. But maybe some of you, some of the guys don't know who you guys are. So can you, Genia and Mark, tell us what you do, a bit of your background, and just what do you do for day to day as a contributor to the Pyth network?
Okay, I'll go first. So for everyone that doesn't know, my name's Genia. I sit at Duro Labs on the business development team, and I would say the core contributions fall into a few different categories right now. So the first of which is, and still quite important, is helping to manage commercial agreements for our deployment deals. So every time a new chain launches, whether it's a L1, L2, whichever number category you fall into, we typically structure these deals, at the labs level, and we kind of get into all the knit and grit, on the BD side, and we make sure everything's deployed. We support the ecosystems, we support the application builders, and of course, once everything's completed, we tweet about it, we do the proper go to market, and we try and bring as much attention and hopefully users to some of these protocols. So that's the first thing. The second thing that's kept me quite busy over the last year is, of course, Express Relay, which is our Solana RFQ. And so right now we currently power Camino, Ranger Finance, Titan, Cabana Exchange, and a couple others. Basically, just bringing a network of market makers, or what we call searchers, to provide liquidity on chain. So these guys basically are able to kind of use their skills from market making on centralized exchanges. They bring it on chain, and you guys get better pricing and execution and tighter spreads on a number of trading pairs. And then a bunch of other kind of miscellaneous things I'm involved with, but that's kind of the short version.
And how do you call this? Honored member of Super Team Toronto, no? Or Super Team Canada?
Yes, I'm also involved in Super Team Canada as well. Shout out to our boys. Shout out to Super Simon and Ben and Fib, who run the initiatives there. But yeah, a lot of fun. We love Solana in Canada.
And I'm Mark. I sit opposite to Genia on the association side. So Pyth Data Association. I've been there for over 4 years now. So quite some time now. Time flies, but at times it can go slowly, as it's we've been through ups and downs, all crypto the past 4 years. And day to day, I mostly focus on, let's say, 3 things, if that's not too much. One, and we'll dive a bit more during this call, is anything around like the DAO, the governance, the DAO presence of the association. And we've benefited there with from a bunch of community support, like the community council helping like the Pythians to create their own council within the DAO, push forward so that the Pyth network, the protocol, works fully autonomously through the DAO. So that's kind of one thing I care about. The other is, once Genia usually manage to get the Pyth prices on that new chain, usually I do enjoy going into the trenches and go find those applications that deserve some better pricing. And after also like interfacing a lot with the end user protocols, it kind of helps also driving the catalog of price feeds, let's say. So while there are some great goals like price every asset anywhere, you still have to go from 1 to 100. You don't just jump. And I usually try to help on the Pyth network, taking the next correct step and not jumping 10. So a bunch of price feed management, working a lot with our data publishers like ensuring they have good quality, they price as much asset as possible, because very much they're the fuel of the network. So bit of jack of all trades, let's say.
Amazing. Thank you guys for the intro. What I want to start with is kind of look back to what the, I guess, first 4 years. I think it's been about 4 years of the Pyth network now. But what do you take out of those first 4 years where we've been very DeFi focused, blockchain, decentralized applications using the price feeds? What are some of the key things that you take out, as I think now we can call ourselves a leader in the space of in derivatives? People want the Pyth price feeds. We've got a ton of volumes going through Pyth price feeds, 600 apps using us. Take us back through your lens of what's been the key things that you like pops out to your mind in that sense.
I'd say, and I mean, you have to start in 21. And it was, I think, April. We kind of went public about the Pyth network. It was revealed. Back then, you had one only deal in town, and it was Chainlink. And every other oracle was pretty much like sharing crumbs between each other. And like a mix of like being early, I mean, not being early, having a vision, a bit of luck, etc. Like, I think we pretty much entered in an arena where you had a Goliath in there. And I mean, we managed to survive and grow until now. And actually, from like 4 years ago, it looked like there would only be one oracle ever, Chainlink. There is now multiple other oracles that bring tons of value to the table. And just having competition like pushes everyone forward. So from like being called crazy 4 years ago, why are you even trying? The standard, no one's going to use you, like very antagonistic kind of stance against the Pyth network. It was very cool and rewarding to first grow with Solana, then grow with all these new chains that popped up, enabling more developers, more builders. So arguably, surviving and growing into what we are today, I think is already a great success. And phase one was showcasing that, all right, you can have other oracles, but also one thing I think people appreciated and get the value more and more, it's not just about infra, it's all about data. And so why did Pyth, I think, survive versus previous oracle that failed versus Chainlink is most people assume all data is equal. All data ain't equal. Pyth, we had the vision, we had the belief that from day one that this will be a differentiator. And I mean, we could have done things better, like the whole network could have done things better, everyone can do better. But I think this was great success in like securing, I guess now with like trillions of cumulated volume and value. So I think that this is very cool. And like having 100 data publishers, having a big network, like the Pyth network is super distributed. It's not like but one team managing, turning buttons, etc. So I think it's very, very cool that with all the kind of like we made our life harder based on a few things, and we still kind of delivered values and to other people. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll add a couple things, and obviously Mark has way more insight into this as he was here basically since day one or day two. But I guess from the last couple of years of my journey as being a contributor and being over at Duro, it's been really interesting to see how Pyth has grown as an ecosystem along with the growth and kind of launch of new networks. Like we've been very, very good at getting in front of all the new L2s, getting in front of a lot of new chains and ecosystems that frankly ended up obviously not every single one of these things ended up being a huge success, but like we were able to get in there pretty early, capture the right market share as far as like perp dexes and borrow lending, and just kind of watching actually those two verticals particularly within DeFi grow, and like we've been able to grow with that. Obviously, I think we can all agree there's Things are changing now. We're like, there's probably too many chains and too many applications that kind of look similar to each other, and that's okay. That's that's just kind of that's how things evolve. But we've been able to to have a pretty good stronghold in a lot of these new launches and have grown with a lot of these protocols. And each of these experiences has been very kind of formative, and you learn a lot trying to help people build their own products. And obviously it helps inform us about how we can grow, which is what we're going to be talking about over the course of the rest of this discussion.
And I mean, a question for you guys is, I think we often, or I mean, I guess from my side of the world, just scrolling CT, we just, every oracle is the same. I think Mark said data is created the same. It is not. Can you guys just, a bit as of a education piece, say, okay, why is Pyth different from the other, I'd say, oracles and also data distributors that you see in the very traditional finance world?
I think the key difference is creating your own data. As in, Pyth is not just like Oracle at the core is just sending securely like off an aggregated response off chain on chain. Like Pyth overall, it's like infrastructure, while important, is very commoditized. Like anyone that, like your edge is the tech and you'll always be beaten like by someone else. Where Pyth is very different is that it's going to create its own data thanks to its network of publishers that all have their own proprietary data. So it's not, and we can take an example. For example, you can have, say, Apple prices. You could go to NYSE or CME, the US stock exchange, pay $1 million, you get data, you send the data on chain, people can use it. Here, you're just like a distributor, and you just distribute someone else's data. So overall, you become the middleman of someone else that created the most valuable thing. At some point, the guy will undercut the middleman because he can just either capture the extra margin or reduce the cost, etc. So Pyth very much at its core was let's have this most possible streamlined process of having those who create or have some private / proprietary data contributed so that we have so much data at the Oracle level that you can create a new kind of raw price of Apple, of Bitcoin, of any assets, of 2,000 assets today on the Pyth network, to then also distribute it on-chain till now. The focus will be off-chain. So Pyth at its core was, let's create our own data, because this is like, you won't have to pay data vendor or other data creator, because otherwise, and we're going to say some numbers after, but data creation is like $50 billion revenue per year. Data distribution is much less than this. So you want to create your own data. After, if you have, you can always distribute someone else's data, but that's, I think, where Pyth, we see the thing differently, is no one else will have the same prices as Pyth, because we're not using your public API. We're not using an API you can buy for $100 on the internet.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess the other thing I'll add is, so 2 important points. We're on the origination piece, right? Like we've seen, and I'm not going to name names or call any projects yet, but we've seen in the past where other oracles or kind of data projects have just kind of piped in third-party data by scraping someone's API, and then they use that to create their oracle price, and then bad things can happen when you just have, for example, a single source of data, or the data is not accurate, or or it's incomplete, right? So I think for us, just to kind of to provide a simple heuristic for why the data is better and different is it comes directly from the source, from from the market makers, HFTs, prop shops, sexes, dexes, anyone that's kind of originating the data. We're getting it from the source. And not only are we getting it from the source, we're getting it from multiple sources, and then it's being aggregated and then kind of sanitized and turned into one single price feed. right, that isn't susceptible to manipulation or dislocation from any single publisher. And this is very important because let's say your bar lending protocol or perp dex where the price determines, like the price feed determines, let's say, a liquidation point, and you have shitty data, basically your customers are going to be on the hook for it, and so is your reputation. So I think that, just to sum it up, it's like the quality of the data is good. There's a lot of it. It is robust. It's battle tested. And, as far as we can tell, we've had, pretty much next to no real bad incidents with inaccurate data. And so in our industry, that matters a lot.
I mean, you take me on to you tee it up for me to ask about now with this phase 2, this proposal coming from Duro Labs, saying, hey, let's take this product, let's bring it to TradFi. To me, a bunch of what you both said is like, okay, our data is just that good that it should be used by traditional finance, where it feels like to me, oh yeah, I could just go long short on some random perp dex, some assets, some crypto stuff, and I mean I won't complain if I'm getting liquidated. This is my own fault, my own bad decisions. But now we're talking about bringing the PIF data to traditional finance. What I think myself, and I think a bunch of Pythians and community members want to know and learn about is about the overall market structure of this market data. How does it work? The 50 billion, I've heard Mark drop that number. What does it look like today for in layman's term to say, hey, here's how PIF comes in. What do we offer? What do we propose? And what's the market for what we are proposing?
Definitely. Let's take some easy comparison. The current market data structure is very much akin to like streaming services, let's say Netflix, Apple TV, Disney, Hulu. I mean, I don't watch many TV shows, so likely 10 other providers, but you have like 5 to 10 to actually 100 of providers. Like in my French country, we have couple, etc. So it's to have data or movie, like a certain movie, it's on platform A. You have to pay here. Another movie, platform B, you have to pay another provider. And usually you cannot just buy the data you want. They sell you an overcharge package, etc. So you wanted to watch 2 movies this month. Arguably, you could have said, okay, maybe I'll pay €2 or whatnot here and there for each. And in the end, you end up paying $50 of package deals from multiple providers because they all don't have the thing you want. And usually you don't have like cross-selling, etc. So, and sadly, a reason we go to 50 billion is also because of this. But first is like the big problem in current market data structure is the data is done usually per asset type or per asset or instruments. Like futures is usually a different exchange than traditional equities. FX completely different, metals also completely different. And then you have 200 countries in the world, maybe 150 within like national stock exchange. Like no one or barely no one has that many countries covered. So it's like the current market data market is like plagued with this 1,000 vendors, like too much data, too much vendors. Pyth is actually more akin, let's say, to Spotify of today, where maybe you don't have 100% of the financial assets in the world. Let's say you have 98% that is relevant. In Spotify, it's like €8 or $10. I don't even know the price nowadays, but it's one vendor for arguably all the music you could want. So Pyth, I think, has a very strong like penetration power with this, as in Pyth has crypto data today. It has FX, metals, US stocks, US economic data, Hong Kong stock, Japanese stock, Chinese stock, French, German, UK, US yield curve, and with so much more to come. So rather than go to the French data vendor, the German one, the US one, I could just hook myself onto Pyth. And one place, one venue for all the data I need and plus. So I think that's one super powerful thing Pyth has. And thanks to this, like purely around the data distribution or the like sales, pricing, etc., you can provide tons of value to guys that had to take 10 subscription. Like these guys can cut their cost by easy 50%, if not more, by just having a single data provider like Pyth.
Yeah, I think also just for for those that aren't super aware of how a lot of this data is used in kind of traditional financial markets. Like we all know how it's used on chain because that's what we do every day, and that's kind of our bread and butter. But the reality is, this data is valuable for a lot of different use cases in traditional markets, right? So everything from like back testing trading strategies, clearing and settling, accounting, auditing, like historical research, running risk models, all this sort of stuff is like you need base level data to do any of these things, right? And then if you think about all of the categories I mentioned, like how many firms fit into those categories, and then how many larger firms do all of those things, right? So then you can kind of imagine how all of these costs for the different streams of data would add up over time. And these are very non-trivial costs. Even if you're like some small prop shop or small whatever investment firm, like you still got to pay the same price as large bank A or B over there. Like you guys are all paying the same price, and the number is a big number. So what we believe pretty confidently and firmly is that, like, given the direction of how we've expanded into some of these more traditional data markets and some of these new price feeds, we really think there's a place for us to compete in this market, to provide either at least the same level of quality or better for some of these price feeds. And the amount of off-chain use cases that could be covered by this is, like, I just named like 7. There's probably like 24 others that I can't even think of off the top of my head. So the 50 billion market opportunity is like, that's kind of the total number. Obviously, like, we're not crazy enough to think we're going to capture some large amount of this in the near future, but even a small chunk, 1%, 1% is 500 million. Still, it's a big number. So just to kind of like put that into context, we're very bullish on it. And I think also, with some of our other initiatives that we can't speak about publicly now, that are being driven into the institutional use case side, it'll start to become more of a clearer picture over the next few months.
Genius taking me to places I don't want to go. But first, no, but I think, Mark, you put it very in layman's term into my words, saying, "Oh, we're trying, to be a sort of Spotify of financial data." What now? I think it's interesting to spend a little time on is, okay, who are the artists on our Spotify? Tell us how, and Genia as well, how confident we are to say, hey, we've got the best music on Spotify or on Pyth. We've got the best financial data. What are the, a bit of the, from selection to checking out the quality of the data, because this is what we're going for, the highest quality of data to TradFi that they can use. What's the behind the scenes that you can share about the Pyth network and how we provide a bunch of those bunch of assets that we've talked about?
Just on the data quality, and I think there's actually many other, other verticals might be more powerful than having the best data quality. But like just having the biggest trading firms or directly exchanges like in trying to reshape that data economy, they're like, okay, like when you have Jane Street, they trade whether like overnight Apple or during the day Apple stock. I would trust Jane Street with my eyes blinded on what if they tell me what's the price of an asset, because they must like trade 30% of it every day. So just having like, where do you get the data? Like, and the Pyth network gets it from the most informed participant that usually no one else has access to. So just thanks to this design, you end up with like stuff that are nearly impossible for others who can't consume or get access to private proprietary pricing information from Jane Street, from Jump, from Galaxy, from 100 data publishers we have on the network. But arguably, I would say, like, if we keep going along the Spotify example, I don't even think like SoundCloud's maybe a competitor. I wouldn't be shocked if SoundCloud has better sound quality, but like they're very, I guess, house music driven, might be more expensive. I actually don't know, but it's Spotify is actually, I think, just the overall best package. It's great music quality. Maybe it's amazing, but it's also big breadth of catalog, super price competitive. So it's, I think, the whole package of like, you have a great product, might be the best, might be the second best, but being the second best and 90% cheaper than the best, like the best will die at some point. So yes, we have to have the best data quality, that's the goal, but not at the expense of like selling it to no one. Because if you have the best data in the whole world, you might just want to keep it for yourself and do your own thing. Or Genia, am I misguided in
No.
undermining?
I actually think that was a good that was a good example. And by the way, SoundCloud is more expensive. I know. I pay for both.
Oh well, the battle of financial data is on with Pyth and another one, but no. But I guess Mark, there was a great intro. I mean, yeah, no, great deep dive into what makes Pyth, I think, much different from other price feed providers. If when we think about blockchain pricing and financial pricing on blockchains. But now, I guess, I mean, it's for Genia. As a Dual Labs contributor, we have this phase 2 proposal that is building out this new product. I'm not sure if I wanted to call it a new product, but we're very much trying to go out there, target the institutions, traders, brokerage firms, and so on, with a bit of a subscription B2B SaaS. What yeah, top of mind thoughts of the vision. What are the key goals, the key products, assets that we want on there, coming out very soon, that we probably already have. But yeah, what can you tell us about this, phase 2 proposal, and how we go about this?
Yeah, look, I think in general, like right now, I think everyone's been pretty obviously, like over the last year, it's been obviously focused on kind of expanding our DeFi footprint, and certainly over the last like 3-6 months, we've been heading closer into this more institutional TradFi direction. Shout out to Mike James, who's leading a lot of those efforts, and you'll be probably hearing a little bit more from him next week and the week after that. But look, I think realistically right now, the primary thing for us is to get more coverage across many of these assets, right? So as Mark mentioned, we already have quite a range of assets that we have price feeds for. There's over 2,000 across, crypto, FX, equities, commodities, metals, yield curves, and now we have GDP data on chain and a few other kind of long tail categories. So I think the big thing is really just expanding the coverage, expanding symbols, and making sure we have this proper and accurate data set from providers that we trust, to create a more holistic package, right? So for us, I think that's a pretty big focus. and really getting like we have numbers internally in terms of like what we think are proper targets for symbol coverage, right? If you guys read some of our thread or the blog post that we put out earlier this week, 10K is the number that we're trying to shoot for, which is a lot. That's it's a 10,000 assets it's a pretty big data set in general. So, and it's going to take a lot of work to get there, and obviously it's not going to happen overnight. But we think with the momentum and with the groundwork that the team has put in over the last little while, we think that's not just it's not just reasonable, but we think it's very achievable over I don't want to give timelines, but let's just say in the near term, and so that'll put us in a position where we're no longer going to be like just a crypto data provider. We're going to be a data provider in general that happens to do crypto, and we do all these other things as well. And so then things become more interesting where we've had obviously plenty of conversations, and I obviously can't say who it is, but plenty of conversations with firms in the more traditional finance space that have expressed interest in using the data for a whole number of reasons, some of which I mentioned before, and some more kind of let's say long tail use cases as well. So we think having the full package complete and having kind of a robust product over the next little while is going to put us in a very good position to compete with some of these traditional data providers. And it's going to be a long road. I don't want to sit here and pretend like we're just going to flick our fingers and a year from now things are great. Obviously we hope that's the case, but there's still quite a bit of work to do. But this is the goal that we're shooting for, and we're very confident that with what we've built and with a few adjustments and a few additions, this is going to be a fully featured and fully packaged product that is going to be able to compete with the big boys in the off-chain use case world. So we'll obviously keep you guys up to date on how this plays out, but that's kind of the overall vision for the next little while.
Where I'm very happy to see this vision put forward from the Duralab side is arguably 100% increase or double the verticals where Pyth could generate revenue from its data. As some might know, if they are hardcore Pythians or DAO lovers or whatnot, like earlier this year, the Pyth network did actually increase some of its fees, let's say for data delivery on 8 chains, actually 10 chains, because there has been a couple that were increased since. And like just thinking back on this, like when I was trying to push this, just kind of testing grounds for this on like, all right, like the network has to make some revenue at some point for it to be self-sustainable. There was kind of a lot of doubts on will people pay, because like it's crypto. Every few years you get a new oracle, new token, new airdrop, new grant. So it's always there's always a competitor of you that will give money to people. So when earlier this year we wanted to kind of test the grounds on, all right, let's charge people for this service that make their protocol work as expected. It went great. I was actually very surprised by how much the community wanted to push for all the chains on chain. But with this, we now have potentially, and I think the proposal or the idea from Duralabs dropped on the forum while we were talking today. So go check that out. But mine, I'm very excited because arguably it can just double the potential revenue for Pyth. Back the first Jan, I was all right. The on-chain money, DeFi, so we have to increase the usage to the max possible. And now it's actually, data's great. The product could be has very good differentiator versus TradFi product. And so kind of being able or willing to tackle both this data world plus the on-chain, I think is just great for Pyth, because end of day, if both goes forward, it just means potentially more money for the DAO, more money for the publishers, for the ecosystem, and just continuing growing.
Yeah, and
Mark,
sorry,
go ahead, Virginia.
one
Go ahead.
more thing, Pierre, before we move on. So I just wanted to underscore that, like, this, like, the revenue potential here, obviously, you know, we've thrown out some numbers and, you know, everyone can get excited about that. But ultimately, we've seen this big meta form over the last, you know, 6 months where revenue actually seems to matter to people, whether you're Hyperliquid or your Pump Fund or your Axiom, right? Or, you know, your Jupe or Meteor. Like, this is ultimately the goal of a business, right? Like, you have a project, you know, you do some work, you want to get paid for it, right? And then, you know, you turn it into a flywheel and hopefully it kind of works and scales over time, right? And so this is kind of, in my mind at least, this is kind of the final piece to putting in together the flywheel so that it could actually get going, right? So once we're able to not just, you know, generate, you know, fees from some of the on-chain stuff, but actually start to use, you know, this phase two as a lever for revenue generation, suddenly that starts to look a little bit more interesting, not just for DAO revenue or buybacks or, you know, whatever narrative you want to create around the token, which everyone's free to do. But, you know, this becomes like a fully self-sustaining thing, which that's, to me, that's the most interesting bit, because that unlocks other opportunities, which, you know, we can't even imagine what that's going to look like now. But, you know, just sit back and think about what this looks like a year from now if, you know, Pyth Pro is able to generate, I don't know, 50 million in revenue, and then 100, and then 500, and so on, right? So like this starts to grow both in parallel on the on-chain side and the off-chain side. And frankly, there's not a lot of other projects that can do both of those things. So that's my final word on that.
No, but I mean, you take me on to I think my last leg of this live stream, to keep it as tight and compact as possible. But yeah, so now this phase two clearly means monetization of the Pyth data. This means either off chain, on chain. But what I'm like, I want to hear from you guys is, okay, how do we monetize that data? What are the different ways? Genia, you mentioned a couple use cases and so on, but you know, in 2 or 3 ways, how do we monetize that data? And extending, where does that monetization go? Where does the revenue go, or could go, and how do we make use of it potentially?
Yeah, cool. So I'll go first, and then Mark, I think you can give the PDA angle. So if we're just looking at it from the perspective of phase two, and and using Pyth Pro as a lever for additional revenue, you know, it's going to be a subscription service, if you guys haven't caught on yet, right? So it's going to be X amount of dollars per month, right? And we're still kind of figuring out what that looks like. And so it'll be on a recurring basis. Obviously, we're going to sell subscriptions, you know, based on, I don't know, 6 months, 12 months, whatever the interval is. And, you know, we'll figure out ways to obviously incorporate the token. If people want to pay in the token, maybe there's some sort of discount. If not, we'll structure other ways, to collect the revenue from that. And then, you know, the idea is generally to get that revenue accumulated and eventually gets funneled over to the DAO. Whatever percentage, or whatever number we come up with, which it's still kind of we're figuring some of those details out. But Pyth Pro as a subscription equals revenue to the DAO. Very simple. And then I think Mark can probably touch on some of the on-chain fee generation opportunities in addition.
Yes, and maybe for some brain-rot visual content, Pierre, if you could maybe share your screen for the forum. Just we could show people like everything Genia mentioned has been shared by the Draw Lab side in more detail on the forum, on the Pyth DAO forum. It's in the idea bank process, so maybe after I finish yapping on-chain revenue, we can just where do we go from there? What do we do from all yapping? But no, on-chain is, regardless of, let's say, the decision of the DAO on this phase two regarding the off-chain subscription. Did we just lose Pierre? I guess. All right, now we do anything we want, Genia, it seems. But yeah, so regardless of this phase 2 for the off-chain subscription, like based on all the comment, the feedback, the suggestion from the community, from the DAO participant, from those Pyth token stakers, I'd be super interested to push the whole fee implementation on chain. So I mentioned we have 10 chains currently with non-zero fees, like it goes from 1 to 10 cents. I think it has generated about 100K this year, this increase in fees, mostly on Chronos, on Say, on Avalanche, on OPBNB, like lots of BNB token. And after you have other like some chains, for example, like Sonic X Phantom have a very nice program where you have some gas rebate. So for example, there, the Pyth Oracle that is heavily used, I think has generated 120K S token as reward. So it's like 40K. So just purely on-chain revenue this year with, I'll repeat, only 10 chains with very minimal fees, close to 200K has been generated and fully owned by the DAO. So this, if the whole community is very excited around, all right, let's monetize both off and on chain, maybe only on chain, etc. Will be nice to see. And yeah, thanks for sharing the screen. So this is from, you might recognize the Yasser, so from Duro Labs. They were also instrumental in the Oracle integrity staking that appeared last November, that introduced slashing for publishers if prices are wrong and potential payout to impacted application. And so here is, I guess, the kickstarting on the forum of this proposal. So for you that may not know, usually ideas or proposal to change how the Pyth network work on various aspects starts in the idea bank section. And so here, like usually these discussion go for at least a week, maybe more. Like for OIS, it went for quite some time. But pretty much maybe Pierre, just scroll down a bit, and I guess we'll just see in writing what Genia mentioned here and there, but like the payment system for this off-chain, like it is suggested to not only accept crypto, but also like traditional fiat, Pyth token, etc. And yeah, overall, I mean, I read through the idea. TLDR is giving powers to Duro Labs, I mean, controlled powers into this off-chain subscription business with a, I think a share mentioned there. And yeah, what we'll do with the token is not going to be part, or at least from this idea bank post, part of this proposal, it's suggestion. So also under there, do voice your thoughts on not only are you for this off-chain subscription model, but also, if so, what to do with the revenues. Is it keep growing the ecosystem, keep paying publishers, keep paying for OIS rewards, like anything. So it's very much important, all of you that listens or that will see this later on, go read it, ask questions, reply what you have on your mind. And from there, and if you don't believe that this has power, go check the initial idea bank around this integrity staking system. I think this post or this thread has like over 100 comments with like quotes from Pyth data publishers, like arguing around the math. So yeah, do voice your stance. That's how we can all ensure Pythians that we go in the correct direction and the Pyth DAO thrive. And maybe just dates. And Pierre, your internet is pretty bad. You have a very low quality. But yeah, and I think there was the next step at the end of the post. But yeah, so first read, comment, and just monitor because it will get refined. And overall, if it feels like a good, let's say the community seems to support it, even with some edits, at some point there will be a more official, not a more official, a proper on-chain proposal, on-chain vote, where NEP stakers will have like 1 week to vote yes, no, should this off-chain subscription business / phase 2 go on, led by Duro Labs. So this, at best, I mean, it's in a week, if not 2, but the earlier people comment, the earlier this can be refined and put forward, because there is no time to lose overall.
Hopefully my internet is good, but yeah, you walked out through the next steps, which is amazing. I guess more for Jeannie and Mark, what does success for Pyth look like in the next end of the year and 2026? Like, what are we targeting? What is it? Number of assets, regions. What do we think is the next evolution of the Pyth network, as successful as it is today? What's the next step up?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think, look, first and foremost, we can't lose sight of how we got here and our bread and butter, which is supporting amazing ecosystems and great builders and applications that we all love and use. So I think still the first priority is we need to make sure we have coverage in all the major launches, all the major tokens for price feeds, all the major applications that are launching within these ecosystems. So we're never taking our eye off the ball from that perspective, right? There's a ton of incredible conversations that we're all having on a weekly and daily basis. Like even this week, I had 3-4 calls where I was like, wow, okay, this is actually happening. This thing is big, right? This big project is launching, and and we're excited to be part of those discussions and to support these builders. So I think just making sure we got coverage in all the right places still is the number one goal, because that allows us to do all of these other things. And then, just making sure we are able to consistently grow the non-crypto price feed coverage at a kind of like predictable rate, I think is important if we're going to kind of hit our goals on the Pyth Pro and TradFi angle for the subscription services, and just like making sure we're able to refine and kind of like test the quality of the data to make sure it's up to par for some of our hopeful TradFi clients. So I think those are the big things. We've got some interesting network upgrades that are potentially coming soon that we can't really talk about too much, and so just getting some of that stuff across the line as well, super exciting. But we got our work cut out for us. The year's not over, job's not finished, but we're gonna finish strong this year. I'm pretty happy about it.
And Mark, I don't want to let you harp onto this, but it's more now. I want to ask you about now. Okay, we're going onto a bit of more of a TradFi angle, RWAs that they call whatever, that we're going to be pricing a lot. But to my understanding, there's a bunch of degens that want to do TradFi stuff on chain. And so how excited are you for, I mean, I guess, yeah, we're going to be selling that data to a bunch of, more traditional entities, institutions, banks, but still, the hyperliquids, the Solana of the world need accurate data for a bunch of TradFi stuff that no other Oracle can do. How much of the, how exciting it is to still be servicing DeFi that, I see still as today with our price layer, the Pyth price layer that we're getting built that we are getting to build right now.
Oh, no, definitely it's very much this phase 2, or at least I definitely would not support it if it would just mean, all right, let's just drop the on-chain to just do off-chain. I mean, maybe for next year end of line revenue, it might just make sense, maybe not, but it's very important. Like if we I mean, personally, I think this is true. If today Pyth has the ability to sell like data, like subscription to its data, it was only thanks to this past 4 years, this phase one of pure on-chain. And overall, I think we're just going to have, like, arguably the on-chain maybe world's going to like increase way more. Like we kept saying 50 billion for this Web2 off-chain TradFi market data. Maybe the same market, but for on-chain application protocol, whether it's centralized, whether it's a bank chain, whether it's a L1 with a single validator, L2 with a single sequencer, whatnot. Like arguably no one pays for data, or they don't pay so much for data. It's like maybe 100 million market. So arguably this market is going to go to billions too. So it would be foolish to drop this while we already have a great market share there. So I think we'll do the best. I'll do the best daily so we don't lose that on-chain footprint. But it's having also the potential of like having off-chain users, like talking to TradFi. I mean, I don't want to sound nasty right now, but arguably they know way more about data quality than any DeFi developer or protocol team. Like they've been trading for 40 years, millisecond, sub-millisecond frequency, trillions. They know like their stuff. So like having this potential like off-chain data selling will for sure increase the Pyth products in coverage, in quality, etc. That will, in the end, like on-chain protocol DeFi teams will benefit anyway from it. So I think this is super cool, and this will also help Pyth get a bigger market share of this on-chain data business. So I think it's super complementary, and it's also, I think, from a pure pragmatic point of view, is when you see, I mean, just the amount of people, what are they willing to pay off-chain, it would be almost a professional fault to not go try and sell something you kind of have to a guy that wants to buy it for millions. Like on-chain, it's very hard for people, as I mentioned earlier. They almost get paid to use another like new oracles. Like if you only go this way, you go bankrupt at some point. So you kind of have to balance this out, but I think it's very synergistic. And I mean, and we see with Stripe, with many other chains, good chance that those institutions we want to sell, let's say, that off-chain data to actually at some point need it on their own chain or on any public/permissionless blockchain. Are we deploying on the JP Morgan chain or the JP coin soon, Genia?
One more thing quickly. I just want to underscore, which I think some people might find surprising if you don't work here full time, is that people expect work to be done for free in crypto. I don't know why. It's just for some reason they expect free airdrops. They expect free infrastructure work to be done, and all this sort of craziness that in any other industry you'd be like, wow, that's insane. Like, we're putting in X amount of effort and you want this to be for free. It just it doesn't make sense. Obviously, this is why monetizing in crypto has always been a challenge for a lot of projects. But if you put on your TradFi hat, these guys are used to paying for stuff all the time. And not only are they used to paying for stuff, they're used to paying a lot for the things that they actually need, because it's a core piece of how they do their business. So for us, these like the on-chain and off-chain stuff, it goes hand in hand, right? And as Mark mentioned, which I think is another good point to underscore, making our way into these off-chain use cases and providing this new type of data, it will improve the product, because it has to go from here to here in order for the TradFi guys to find it acceptable and usable. So ultimately, it's the type of initiative that benefits everything and everyone. And we're excited to move forward and get it off the ground. So just it'll be great.
What's the meme? It's good for everybody.
Yeah.
It
You
grows
get
the
some, you
economy.
get some. It'll be awesome. I'm pretty excited.
Amazing. I don't have anything else. I mean, I think we covered quite some ground on the phase 2 proposal and what could come out of this and this new product and new potential Pyth token utility and so on. So very exciting. Of course, I mean, I'm excited. Anything I missed, or do we close it out as the hour hits? I know Chop is very onto the hour. It's I get the attention from people. Anything you guys want to add before we close this little walkthrough roadmap out? And there's another one happening in the Discord, I think, later, either today or this weekend. So anything I missed that you guys want to harp on quickly before we close it out?
Two things: like and subscribe. And second thing, if go comment, read the proposal on the forum. My mental model is, if you don't voice your stance, concern now, no, I mean, they say no crying in the casino. Kind of this, like, it's now or never. And I mean, it doesn't have to be today, but it has to be pretty soon. And this is the only way we all Pythians here and Pyth network contributors, because everyone contributes at its own level, can just keep pushing it forward. And I think it's pretty cool. Like, I can only think of one other Oracle that has actual governance forum where you can, as a mere mortal, try to push change your way. So go try to have impact, let's say.
Yeah, no crying in the DAO if you're not going to participate in governance. But yeah, no, I have nothing else to add other than if you guys are going to be in Korea for Korea Blockchain Week, we'll be there. We'll probably do some announcements on some of the events soon. And then a bunch of us are going to be in Singapore for Token 2049, myself included. There's going to be a lot of amazing stuff around both of those events. So just keep an eye on the timeline. Like and subscribe, and just watch the space. There's a lot of cool things happening, and then it's going to be a strong finish to 2025. So we can promise you that.
And I'll add to that, there's a bunch of Pythians in Warsaw right now for ETH Warsaw. So there's a couple events with the Pythinians. So if you're in there, there's Plank, there's a bunch of others I'm going to forget. I don't want to names and then get blasted of forgetting someone. And it can be as simple as participating, putting my face on a meme. I've seen my face in way too many places now. But I like all of them. So it can get you some free impact awards, whatever they call it these days in the Discord. But yeah, it starts in the Discord. It happens in the forum. It's all open, and I think that's quite the from my perspective, the exciting stuff. It's all DAO driven still, unlike a bunch of other projects. So if you're not happy, just voice your concern. There's Mark that will respond and let you know, or Genia, or a bunch of others. So yeah, I mean, guys, thank you so much for the time on this Pyth Day. Was quite the educational piece, and quite the. I mean, I'm super pumped for the rest of the year. This Pyth subscription product, institutions are coming. Apparently, it seems. I just listened to Mike James about this, but yeah, thank you guys for the time. Any parting words before we log off and let people go touch some grass on this beautiful day?
I just wanted to share this amazing piece. That shout out to DGen Poet. I have one up behind me on the wall, but I have another one here that I haven't put up yet. This is all made on a typewriter, so shout out to our boy.
Is this like behind you, like a Greek
drip one.
statue.
I think it's the drip editions. We had like 3 or 4.
Oh yeah,
different,
you can get it as an NFT as well.
Actually, by the way, Mark, where was the one I brought to Porto? You guys should have it in the office.
It is somewhere.
There.
Anyways, all right, guys.
No.
I gotta get.
Locked in the basement. Locked
Yeah,
in the basement with some art.
All right, boys.
Well-
Pleasure as always. We'll catch you next time. Okay.
Guys, thank you, Genia. Thank you, Mark. Have a beautiful day, Pythians. And if you don't know where to ask, just jump in the Discord on Twitter and we'll let you know.
Ciao.